What is going on? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Julian Stoutt. I am in a really good mood. It is Juneteenth. For those of y'all who do not know, it is June 19th, 2024. And we are exactly 159 years past the day slavery completely ended in the United States of America. It is now a federal holiday as of, I believe, 2021, if I remember correctly. And we are now in the throes of celebration as a result. Now, to remind you guys, this holiday is not just for Black people because, as many of you would like to bring up, the Black people were not the only people enslaved, not only in this world, but in this country. So, with that being said, this is a celebration of the end of all of forms of slavery in the United States of America. So it, except for incarceration, as so depicted by the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution. However, like I said, it's still a day to be celebrated because it is important that we, in fact, look back on how far we've came to go from being called bucks and wenches and pickaninnies to being called African Americans, to be called Black Americans, to be called Black men and Black women is a huge upgrade from those derogatory terminologies that I just originally used a few minutes ago. And as a result, I am very proud to be in the position that I'm in. Guys, if you have not been able to chat live with me for some strange reason, we are having difficulties with the chat, so I will work on that in the near future. But in the meantime, hit me up in the comments below. You can switch over to comments and feel free to state whatever it is that you wish to state at this time. But as you've seen in this video, this video is not only about the liberation of Black people, but this particular live stream is about the liberation of Black women. Now, to be honest with you, this applies to all women because it doesn't just apply to Black women, but Black women in particular seems to fall victim to this more than most. So as a result, I am directly talking to Black women, but all people who have watched my channel and all people who watch my channel who have female loved ones, whether it be wives, sisters, aunts, moms, cousins, grandparents, you need to watch this because I am saddened by the fact that we go through the things that we go through in our society to so-called look good. Now, the truth is, to be honest with you, the truth is you all are spending your money and your time on the wrong aspects of your good looks. Your hair is your hair is your hair is your hair. Some women have longer, straighter hair. Some have shorter, curly hair. Some women will look better to some people with longer hair. Some people will look better to some people with shorter hair. This is why when I turn around and I had the live stream of not being able to accept the word no, this is one of these situations of not being satisfied with what you have and working hard to achieve what it is that you wish to aspire through hard work and dedication, as opposed to some easy fix that you think is easy, when the truth is that if you look at the Faustian bargain, it's not easy. It might come easy, but the consequences are very harsh. And Julian, what do you mean by that? Right? Well, I will say no more and I will get into the link. So give me 1 second. Okay. Share my screen with you.
In Missouri is suing major hair care companies after developing uterine cancer. Jenny Mitchell claims that using chemical hair relaxers and straighteners for almost 2 decades is responsible for her cancer. Her complaint comes after a National Institute of Health study suggested a link between chemical hair straightening products and increased risk of disease. ABC News' Mona Kosar-Abdi reports. Major beauty brand L'Oreal and other makers of chemical hair straighteners under fire.
I am the first voice of many voices to come. We'll stand up to these companies and say no more.
Army veteran Jenny Mitchell and her attorneys, including Ben Crum, filing a lawsuit against 5 companies, claiming Mitchell's uterine cancer was directly caused by chemicals found in hair relaxers sold by those brands, which Mitchell says she started using as a child.
I underwent a full hysterectomy. Yeah, that was harder than the cancer diagnosis because I will never be able to carry my own kids.
The science was always there for everybody to see. And so we don't accept willful ignorance.
Mitchell was diagnosed with uterine cancer at 28. This lawsuit comes as the National Institutes of Health released a study that suggested a link with hair straightening products and an increased risk of uterine cancer in women who use them. Though the cancer is rare, Black women develop it at a higher rate than women of other races.
So, why do you think that is? Do you think it's because Black women are more susceptible to it? Or do you think it's because Black women use it more? Think about that for a minute. How many Black women do you know personally? I don't care about your race at this point. I want to know how many Black women do you know that you know straighten their hair using chemicals. Back in the day, we used to use the hot comb. And, people used to get their ears singed and the whole 9 yards and getting their scalps burnt and whole lot of problems, right? There's other techniques now. And I think it's time that we actually start moving towards those techniques in order to develop better hair. Especially if you feel the strong desire to straighten your hair, which I don't think you really need to, but let's say you do. There are way better, safer, more healthier ways to actually get your hair straightened now than to be using chemicals to straighten your hair.
American woman, it is the societal norm to have your hair look a certain way. Don't wear your natural hair because it looks unprofessional.
Researchers didn't identify a particular ingredient in the trial.
So, we, as Black people, Black women specifically, have fought so hard to wear their natural hair just in the military alone because they were saying it was unprofessional. It was this, it was that. And thank God that finally, especially when we go to the field, right? When you go to the field, it's kind of hard to maintain a so-called perm in the field. You got to wash your hair. You can't wash your hair because your hair's you can't wash your hair because you have a perm in it, but then on top of that you're in dirt and your hair's getting dirty by the however quantifying volume you want to make it. And as a result, women were trying to just braid their hair wear their natural hair, braid it up, and you let it be that until they got back stateside, especially if they were women who found themselves in the field more often than not. And they were getting a lot of crap for it, saying that their hair was unkept, their hair wasn't, professional, especially in the field. And I'm like, whose hair looks professional in the field? Because Caucasian women, some mainly Asian women as well, and many Hispanic women, and I said many, not all, but many Hispanic women could put their hair in a bun or put their hair up and just call it a day and just keep it moving. They don't have to worry about all the intricacies that comes with having to maintain hair that is Eurocentric in its nature. So therefore, finally, it switched. Due to much consternation from people who don't look like us, but finally we ignored them, and it is what it is. We are going to keep it moving because for our health and our safety and our mental well-being, we will rather appear to be professional as we determine it, as opposed to just simply what is determined by a society that does not have to experience what it is that we experience. But I digress.
State more research needs to be done to link hair relaxers to cancer.
I tell my patients to avoid these products and to transition to natural. I think that it's going to make a huge difference in our health outcomes.
Mitchell.
Now, the irony of that. Let's go back. I want you to see that again.
These products and to transition to natural. I think that it's going to make a huge difference in our.
I'm not going to accuse her of having a perm in her hair, but she's also committing another part of the problem. There's weave in there. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's weave in there. Could this be a silk press? Possibly. But that's definitely a weave. What is she doing? Boys and girls, sing along with me. She is, in fact, wearing her hair in an unnatural state. But yet she's trying to convince other women to wear their hair natural. Do you see the point? Do you see the irony of this all? Do you see the oxymoronic nature of this whole thing? How are you going to look somebody in the eye and say, wear your hair natural, but your hair ain't natural? How are you going to tell somebody get in shape when you're not in shape? How are you going to tell somebody don't use drugs when you're a drug user? How are you going to tell somebody don't drink when you drink? Make it make sense. Do as I say, not as I do.
Outcomes.
Mitchell wants to share her experience with other women.
I'm hoping to be a voice for millions of other African American women out there. I don't want another me at 28 not being able to have a family of your own.
All right, Mona, thank you so much. Let's talk more about this and bring in Chief Medical Officer of Verywell Health and OBGYN, Dr. Jessica Shepard, also anchor and reporter at our station in Dallas, Tashara Parker, and celebrity hairstylist and author of Natural and Curly Hair for Dummies, Johnny Wright. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Shepard, what do you make of this link to hair straighteners, relaxers, and cancer? How concerned do you think women should be about this, especially Black women?
I think reading this, for someone who has grown up having relaxers, I think that there is some concern and shock value when you think of a hair care product or a beauty product linking to a cancer. Now, as a physician and a clinician, I do think that there are important parts of this study. One being that we have opened up a way for us to look at research and how it impacts us in the daily things that we use in our lifestyle, such as beauty products, but also looking at uterine cancer and understanding the importance of other risk factors, say.
So now I want y'all to think. We are now discovering that certain things that are even within the vicinity of us can cause hormone blocking, hormone disruptions. We now are discovering that chemicals that are in our foods are causing, they're causing serious issues with our health. you are starting to realize that just living in a particular neighborhood puts you at a greater health risk than other places that you could live because of the environment itself. So what makes you think that what you put on your body cannot put a risk to your body? Does that make sense? Because you're putting it, first of all, you put it on the top of your head. It's going into your hair. Your hair is literally a protein, a form of dead protein, right? That dead protein then absorbs whatever it is that you put on your hair, and then it seeps into the bloodstream of your scalp. We're going to go over the ingredients that are in many of these hair relaxers.
But also giving us now responsibility to take something in our own hands that we can exclude from our everyday life and take away the societal shame that comes with not using a relaxer, and with not using a relaxer that can somehow improve our quality of life and decreasing our risk for uterine cancer.
So, Tashara, you have done stories on hair discrimination. And for those who don't understand what that means, just look at the 2020 study by Michigan State University, where Black women are more likely to be sent home from work because of their hair. And 80% of those women feel the need to change their hair from its natural state just to fit in at the office.
I don't want to make this sound like this was some sort of... This is not something that I blame Black women for. I don't want anybody to think that at all. I want y'all to understand something. This is a generational curse of feeling inferior to other races of women because their hair looks nothing like other women's hair. But the irony of it all is that other women use the very same chemicals to curl their hair. If you go and check things out, as a matter of fact, I saw this the other day, and I'll pull it up here shortly, and you'll see it for yourself. There are Asian people who are kinking their hair. They're Asian people who are growing or who are using chemicals to create the illusion of having an afro. But yet, we are running from who we are. 80% feel they need to change their hair from its natural state to fit in at the office, at their job, at the gym, at school. Now, that's a lot of women. A lot. You're talking about 20 million women, 80% of them. So you're roughly talking about 18 million women feel the need to change their hair. Why? Because other people are trying to make them feel uncomfortable. But what I will definitely tell you is that we as Black men and women, adults, we need to start, first of all, educating ourselves on how to handle our children's hair to grow healthily and naturally. And then on top of that, give our children the strength and the emotional self-esteem that is needed to walk through this planet feeling absolutely the best that they can feel with what it is that God gives them. For a lot of times when I see women with really bad hair, and when I say bad hair, I am not talking about nappy, I'm not talking about kinky, I'm not talking about any of that. What I'm talking about specifically is I've seen women with bad hair because they were not either taking care of it properly, or it was not being treated properly. So therefore, as a result, girl's hair breaks out, it breaks apart and falls out. Other cases, the hair doesn't grow any further past this point because it's still unhealthy. Maybe it's diet, maybe it's a dietary issue. We don't know. But the issue is that I've seen many of girls who did not have healthy hair on their heads. And as a result, they felt some type of way. They felt inferior. They felt some sort of less than, to the point where they felt the need to want to go and do more with their hair or improve their appearance by utilizing other means to get their hair to look a certain way. And I'm going to get into that other part as well.
Tell me about your personal experience and what inspired your series Rooted.
If you really want to be a CEO, want to be an entrepreneur.
And off my screen. Hate when they do that.
A lot of us, when you think about a series, something like that about hair discrimination, black hair discrimination is what it focused on, you think, oh, this can't be an issue, right? But then you hear that study from Michigan State University saying 80% of black women in the workplace feel as if they need to conform or change from their natural hair state just so that they can fit in at the office. And you think to yourself, wow, I can't believe that this is actually an issue that is happening. And so when we did that series here at WFAA, it really just opened up our eyes to know that this was something that was happening to a lot of black women, and it brought to light many of those issues that we continue to face. You know, for me, this...
Now, I'm going to pause it because I want you to see her hair. That's beautiful. You're trying to tell me that's not beautiful hair? As is? No straightener, no nothing, just her hair. Why isn't that beautiful? Why, earlier we did a live stream about ugly and how this one woman was told she's ugly for a black woman. That still to this day really pisses me off. And it is not really because if this is how you talk to a woman that's on the street, how do you talk to the women in your life? Number one. If you can't look at, I understand there's preferences, and as somebody who doesn't have a type per se, I would tell you this. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but at the same time, every woman of every race has a standard of beauty that can be met. Okay? And what I'm getting at here is her hair is beautiful. It didn't even have to be this long. We could cover up the majority of what she has going on back here. And I don't know if how much of this is her hair versus not. But all I'm going to say is that assuming that this is all hers, it doesn't matter. Her hair could have been shorter than this. It's still beautiful. And young ladies out there from ages little to grown, let me tell you something. If you take care of your hair as is, it can be beautiful no matter the length. Okay? Just want you to know that. But let's keep going.
Personal decision, and part of that decision was showing up as my natural self, wearing my natural hair, right? You know, I would go to work as an entirely different person, like, good evening, thank you for joining us, and go home as someone else that wasn't Tashara. And it was a personal choice for me to continue to show up as myself with my natural hair in its natural state, as well as wearing natural hairstyles. And one of the reasons that I did that was because I didn't see it as often on the TV screen. So it was really important to me. And I think we got to get to a point where women don't feel as if they have to change who they are showing up in the workplace.
And you actually testified before the Texas Senate in support of a bill, right, that is yet to pass in your state. Can you just give us a little background about that?
Yeah, so I testified in support of the Crown Act in front of the State Affairs House Committee. And part of the reason that I did that was so that we can continue having these conversations, right? Oftentimes, if we don't continue talking about these issues, they're just kind of going to go under the rug. No one's going to remember that this was ever a concern. So we got to continue talking about it. So yeah, my station allowed me to go down in Austin to testify in support of the Crown Act, which would basically make it against the law for someone to discriminate against you based on hair.
As I discussed earlier, the Crown Act actually has passed in the United States military. Okay? You have a Crown Act in the United States military. You cannot discriminate against a black woman or a woman of color whose hair, texture, styles are not that of traditional Eurocentric styles and designs. Now, at the same time, cannot be walking around looking unprofessional either. And when I say unprofessional, there are hairstyles that black women can wear that still will be deemed as unprofessional, not because of the hair texture or the style per se, but because it just doesn't present well in uniform. Does that make sense?
Texture. So very important law that we're hoping to get passed across the country. It's passed in several states, but that is
okay. I want you to look at the states that it passed in. And why did it pass? We're going to point out these are all liberal states over here. Alaska is not so much a liberal state, but because the people there are not of white origin, they might understand a little bit more, have a little bit more compassion in Alaska. New Mexico, Hispanic. Colorado, partially Hispanic. I'm surprised Nebraska did it. Illinois, Chicago. Tennessee, Memphis. Virginia, you got all of basically the DMV, basically. Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. And you obviously got Jersey and New York, Connecticut, the tri-state area. And Maine, I'm actually surprised with as well. But the rest of these states, except for Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, doesn't house that many black people. Okay? Well, I'm sorry. My bad. Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. What are we doing? Are you serious right now? I'm surprised that Ohio. Kind of surprised at Florida. But the rest of these states, not very much surprised. But I digress.
Not enough at this point. We're trying to get to a point where it's passed at the federal level.
Johnny, what's your philosophy on all of this? And if a woman wants to change the texture of her hair, how do you approach it? And what do you suggest?
You know, there's so many different ways that you could change the texture of your hair. What people need to understand is heat styling does the same thing that relaxers do to the hair, but just over time. So if you heat style your hair, if you choose to want to wear your hair straight, you don't want to wear your hair in its natural state, you can heat style your hair, and over time it will become straight. The thing is, I don't like to shame anybody for what they choose to do with their hair or how they choose to live their life, but there are just options out there for women, and I think that's what's so beautiful about textured hair. It's so much variety that you can do with it. You can wear it in so many different ways. You can wear braids, curly, and you also can blow it out straight.
Dr. Shepard, talk to us about these dangerous chemicals. What are they specifically?
Sodium hydroxide, let's start with that.
And then also, what do you think about the study that mentioning the hair straightening products in addition to the relaxers? Should women just nix all these products altogether?
Now, that's a very good question that you've brought out, because not only does it pertain just to hair product use, but these are what we're starting to see in beauty product as well, even as far as makeup. So what we have known for years is that there are products and the chemicals that they use, which they weren't able to specify or single out a specific chemical when they did this actual study on the 33,000.
You don't have to specify a specific chemical. What if the combination of all those chemicals is the problem? What if it's a compound can kill you just as much as an element, right? So why is it that we're acting as though that this is a particular chemical that we must find and identify and eliminate it, as opposed to the complete and utter mixture of what it is in general? Because if it is in fact the combinations of metal and formaldehyde, first of all, formaldehyde is what you put in dead bodies. right? It's poison. Metals, heavy metals, if we literally shut down a whole town because of lead, right? What makes you think other metals won't have a negative connotation? Excuse me. But what do you think would happen if you become introduced to all kinds of metals? For God's sakes, they just took aluminum out of your deodorant. Why do you think that is, geniuses? Why do you think that is?
Women, but we do know that some of these products actually have hormone disruptors, and we are starting to see a change in.
Didn't I mention that earlier? I want y'all to understand something. I don't watch these videos beforehand for the most part. I will tell you if I watched the video beforehand. I did not watch this video beforehand.
In the community and society, as far as what we're putting on our body or what we're adding to our daily beauty regimen, which may have ultimate outcomes for specific health things. And in this instance, for uterine cancer, what I did want to make some reference to as well is uterine cancer is one of the most common gynecologic cancers, but we do have seen that there's an increase in incidence and mortality rates over the past 2 decades. Now, that can be, again, exposure to excess estrogen, a hormonal imbalance, which again, that hormonal imbalance can be caused by the use of some of the products, including relaxers. But what we do know is that also the foods that we eat, and obesity does play a huge factor when we think of risk factors for uterine cancer. So I like to make sure that we always.
I have a strong, ill-fated suspicion that that woman's case is not going to go very far, because she just gave them an out. Speaking on obesity, as you saw, that woman was not thin. She was not large. She was obese. Okay? She had a little bit of Dunlap going on. I'm not judging her. I'm just stating facts. She was obese. So, how do we know if the chemical relaxer caused her obesity caused her cancer as opposed to her obesity? Could it be a combination of both? Could obese black women be more at risk for uterine cancer when they relax their hair than other women? Could it be that? We don't know. We'll figure it out.
Everything into the picture. And now that we do know that there is a link between chemical relaxers, I think that this is a way that women can actually say, this is something that I can take control of, that they can take out of their routine to decrease uterine cancer risks in their lives.
You found a new place.
Okay. So what I also wanted to bring up is this hidden dangers is the desperation to be deemed attractive to whomever's eyes they so choose. Women, especially black women, are willing to go through the most dangerous means to have a so-called advantage over other women. Okay? So let's go into traction alopecia, because this doesn't come from this comes about wigs, extensions, braids that are too tight. Okay? This woman is suffering from tension alopecia. I want you to see that. Do you see that? I'm glad she was brave enough to show you what that is and what it looks like, because this is the result of gluing your hair down. This is the result of putting extensions in so tight that you get tension headaches. And you wonder why you're quick to an attitude sometimes. Speaking of my black sisters, your hair's too tight. You might want to loosen it up a little bit. You're angry because your head hurts and you can't scratch when it itches. Because you're going about things in such a way where you are trying to fit into something. You're trying to fit into a box when you yourself is a ball. You're a triangle. You're a pyramid. You're trying to fit into a box that is not meant for you. And I'm not saying that in a way where, I am not disparaging us. I'm not disparaging my black women. I'm not disparaging my black girls. What I'm telling you is you can be beautiful in your own right, in your own ways. You don't have to look like this girl. You don't have to have hair down your back like Cher used to. Notice Cher cut that off? That was Cher's hair. That wasn't no extensions. That wasn't no weave. That was Cher's hair almost down to the floor. You don't have to have Crystal Gale hair. For those of y'all, I'm dating myself. Crystal Gale was a country singer. Go Google her. And you'll see what I'm talking about with her hair. Holy smokes. There would be times I was concerned that she would trip over it. Her hair was so long. All right? But that's not your hair. Or that may not be your hair. It could be, but it may not be. And for those of us who don't have that hair, cool. You don't have to die for it. You don't have to lose your legacy for it. You don't have to lose your uterus for it. You don't have to lose your breast for it. You don't have to lose your wig for it. Just to try to look like somebody you don't look like. Like he said, there are other ways to texturize your hair without chemicals. Because of that, it is important for us to understand that there are multiple ways that we could do it, and we need to learn what that is. When I came across Jasmine Collins' Instagram page, I nearly cried at the pictures of women with sparse hairlines. The hairstylist is known as Razor Chic in Atlanta, Georgia, and her feed made me realize that I've been practicing a very bad habit for nearly all of my life. A few weeks ago, Collins shared a video of a woman who suffers from severe hair loss. At first, I thought that this would never be me. But after watching the entire video, I realized I had something in common with the young lady. I have been wearing my hair in similar hairstyles for years, including box braids and sew-ins. And just like my many other women who enjoy having perfectly done up hair, I never considered the consequences. Traction alopecia occurs when you have your hair that is pulled too tight. Janine Brown, MD, tells Self. You'll see the effects of traction alopecia after wearing tight ponytails, braids, and extensions repeatedly without giving the hair and scalp a chance to recover. So all of y'all that be just got it all slicked back tight, got your hair, got it so tight that you can't even frown, you can't even make an angry face because your forehead's so tight. This is a problem. I want you guys to understand that the soul of who you are makes your beauty shine that much bright. Your hairline may not fit your face sometimes, and you may want to fix it in other ways. But what I would suggest is A, patience, B, do the studies and do the work on what it is that needs to be done in order for you to grow your hair, and then begin doing the work to take care of it the right way, the natural way. So that way, when you do have enough hair that you can style however you want, now you can turn around and go to a hairdresser and get it Brazilian silk pressed or whatever it is that you want to do, which requires no chemicals, by the way. It is, in many cases, irreversible. Personally, I find it upsetting because it's something that is very pervasive among African Americans. I have relatives that have dealt with this and are working their way back to getting their full hair back. But of course, anyone wearing hairstyles that involve jarring tension is susceptible to damage. Just think of a 700-pound woman hanging off of a cliff by a small tree branch. It is going to cause traction, said Downey. And the owner of the Razor Chic salon agrees. Sew-ins are almost like tweezing the hair from the follicle. But this is what we do to so-called look good. Some women, regardless of race, suffer from alopecia and wants to wear a wig. That's different. I think that's a little different. You suffer from cancer, all of your hair fell out, you want to wear a wig? Cool. Especially if you want to represent what your hair used to look like prior to your illness. 100%. I agree. And I'm not telling women not to do something about whatever their image issues are. But what I'm saying is that too many of us have image issues when we need not have them. So let's say, for instance, I had locks. And all of a sudden, my hair fell out. Now, being that I'm a guy, I could always go with a Caesar cut, and most people would not necessarily have anything to say. But I remember when Busta Rhymes cut his locks off, right? Everybody was all shocked. Everybody was bugging out. It's crazy, right? But nobody made him feel less attractive, because he cut his locks off. Some women found him even more attractive, actually. Right? However, the point I'm trying to make is that what if I really liked the image my locks gave me? If there was some way that I can make a wig out of locks, actually there is, because what's his name from Extra, who used to be on 106 in Park, I can't remember his name right now. He was wearing a wig. He was wearing a hairpiece and when I say a wig, it was a wig that looked like cornrows. It was a cornrow wig. When that man was walking around the street on the regular, he didn't have cornrows, which was crazy to me to find out that he never had cornrows. That's wild. But the point is, if we wanted it to be, we could make that happen. And that would be fine. But if I can't grow them, which I kind of could, but I felt it was too much maintenance for me. But I can grow them, but if I were to grow them, if they fell out, I could always do something about it. But if I realize that it's not meant for me, meaning my hair cannot maintain that, then you know what? Let it go. It's all good. There's nothing wrong with that. Do that. I myself found myself guilty of relaxing my hair every now and then. I had S curls for those fellas that did the hair texturizer or the wave for waves or for curls. I had Jerry curls. Black people had Jerry curls forever. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever had Jerry curls, my mother's hairdresser, they had a wound in my scalp so bad that the blood was literally hardening coming out of my head. So I had this curly cute thing sticking out of the top of my head. That was a scab, actually. It was basically chemically burnt blood sticking out the top of my head. Okay? All that to have Jerry curls to look like Michael Jackson, who also had Jerry curls, who originally had an afro, but afros got played out. Michael Jackson had an afro since we knew him, to be honest with you. If you really think about it, Michael Jackson had an afro the majority of his fame. So from age, 6? Age 6 to what? 23? My man had an afro. Okay? So why do so many women consistently wear these styles when balding is a risk? Because the risk of losing to another woman is greater. You heard me say it. The risk of losing in the attractive game to another woman is greater. They will rather win and lose in the long run, and it be some form of injury, as opposed, they would rather have the advantage and then lose due to injury than to lose due to being so-called inferior, which you're not. Some guys might be that shallow. Some guys might be that rudimentary. But a lot of guys aren't. They may not be the guys you want, but a lot of guys are. For God's sakes, Will Smith literally slapped a man who made fun of his wife's shaved head. Because her alopecia is not that bad. Her alopecia is not to the point where she's literally stark raving bald. She's not egg bald. Which is what happens when you suffer from alopecia to the fullest extent. You might have some hair falling out in some places, but you ain't going to be literally bald. So she shaved her head. And we were, quote unquote, sensitive about that. So, I don't want to bring that up again because that really irked my nerves. But anyway, a lot of people have very busy lifestyles and they do it for the convenience. No, they don't. Says Collins, who also leads educational classes on hair care. It's not convenient. Some of it is, but it's not really the convenience part. It's the part of 80% of women texturize their hair to fit into the office, school, and other social settings. That's it. That's the whole entire answer right there. You're trying to tell me 20% of all women of one race does not co-sign to this, and it's not because of societal inferiority? You're trying to tell me it's not? Okay, we're not. She also sent much needed reminder. Beyonce does not wake up Beyonce every single day. Downey agrees. I think that the problem is caused by the thought that you should have a good hair day every day. The fact is, hair is hair. Some days are great. Some days are not so great. We've seen Beyonce's natural hair. Okay. Ooh. And when I say ooh, I'm not saying it's not nice hair or it's not beautiful hair. I'm saying ooh. End of the world to see Beyonce with her natural hair. End of the world to see black actress with her natural hair. Shout out to Viola Davis, by the way, who on national television wore her natural hair on television, on a show. Took her wig off, showed her natural hair, showed her natural self on screen, on camera. Shout out to her. Because not a lot of black women would do that. Let me tell you. Not a lot. There's not a lot. I'm hoping and I'm praying in the very near future this is the case. That black women can be on TV wearing their natural hair and not feeling some type of way about it. I.e. Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg is one of the rares of women who wears their natural hair on TV all the time. Or for the most part. Every now and then you'll see her take her dreads out, but then she puts them right back. Why? Because that's what she's famous for. She's one of the first black women, as a matter of fact, in all honesty, outside of the afro, right? Take the 70s out of the equation. Outside of the 70s, Whoopi Goldberg was probably the only black woman on television or movies that was wearing her hair full on natural and was unapologetic for it. The only movie I remember her in prior to the 90s, well, prior to the 2000s, I would say, is Ghost. And she did that specifically to play a role. Most of the movies, go back and look at Whoopi Goldberg's catalog. The other movie, I believe it was Sister Act, she did perm her hair. Or was that a wig? I don't remember. Put down in the comments below, in the comments, not in the live chat, because right now the live chat is not working. But put in the comments, was her hair a wig in Sister Act, or was it permed out? I don't remember. But all the other movies she was doing, every time she was doing her one-woman show on Broadway, when she was on Comic Relief, her hair was natural. Rarity. Especially during that time. So shout out to Whoopi Goldberg for doing that. Okay? I want y'all to understand that, and I'm going to land this plane. Guys, you have to understand something. The love of oneself, not to be full of yourself, but the love of oneself is so important. It will totally put you in a better mindset when you do. I myself did not like the way I looked. I myself did not like certain aspects about me. Like I said, I did the whole Jerry curl, S curl thing after seeing, you know, the Albie Shores, whose hair is, that's his natural hair, to be honest with you. But the Albie Shores, when Eddie Murphy and Boomerang did it, seeing all these other men do it at that time, Clifton Powell did it. I'm talking about the S curl one, not the Jerry curl. The Jerry curl, that was already a thing, right? But again, seeing these people do it and seeing how other women or girls fawned after these men made me realize, or made me believe, that I was not enough. Now, I'm not going out and suggesting that you don't go out and brush your hair, you don't wash it, you don't do anything with it, because that's gross. But what I'm suggesting is that whatever it is that your hair does, accept that, embrace it, and do something with it from that perspective. And be handsome as a man, be beautiful as a woman, regardless of what other people think. As long as you know you are clean, as long as you know you are well styled, and when I say styled, again, it doesn't matter the length. What matters is it styled. And as long as it's styled, and as long as it's washed, and as long as it's clean, and as long as it's well maintained, forget what you heard. Do you. And do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat. If you agree with me, put a 2 in the chart. Well, as a matter of fact, click the dislike button if you don't agree with me. Click the like button if you do. And last but not least, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Have a nice day. Be the best you. Class